everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh. Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Wednesday, and that means a visit from the great one, Sir Rick Bozich. How are you, sir?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. The weather's beautiful. Just had an Easter weekend, saw my daughter. Get to stare at the transfer portal every day, left and right. Life is grand. How are the White Sox doing, man?
Well, the White Sox aren't doing that. I think they're either 5-17 or 5-18. They've lost 13 straight games in Minneapolis, and over the last 2 seasons, they're
don't go to Minneapolis.
1-16 against the Twins. What?
Don't go to Minneapolis. Stay away from
Minneapolis. You said that they couldn't go anywhere because they really can't beat anybody.
Well, I talked about them earlier because they do have their own NIL thing going on.
IU football player.
Yeah, luckily that he was a transfer from Notre Dame. But also he's Chicago area. But yeah, Pat Coogan on the White Sox NIL, they're a class, so that's kind of a cool deal. I don't know what does that do for those programs other than endear them to fans.
Yeah, I don't think the White Sox, they do have a pretty strong community relations department. They do a lot of things in the city of Chicago. They're very active in funding baseball teams in areas that don't have the money to pay for them, equipment and providing, leadership in fields and things like that. That's called the ACE program. They were one of the forefront in developing that. And they've been involved now in NIL. This is, I think, the 3rd season. And I think they've had another athlete from the Chicago area who's been at IU before, wasn't a football or basketball player, but they've been very active in, having athletes from the Chicago area who are good students who they support.
Yeah, they done a great job. It's good to see that, especially in a way that it's not just NIL crap, because there's so much that goes along with NIL that is not good, like the Nico, I don't know how to say it, Iamaleava, but someone nicknamed him yesterday, I'm a leaving. They nicknamed him Nico, I'm a leaving, and I like that.
It was a trade, really, because didn't their quarterback at UCLA end up at Tennessee?
Yeah. Forced him out, and then he ends up at Tennessee, probably. And I wonder, did he end up getting more money than Nico Amaleven got? Because he took a big reduction, apparently.
I wish we could find out how much money some of these guys are getting. So far, that hasn't happened in the NFL or NBA or MLB. For some reason, the contracts usually become public knowledge almost immediately, but we haven't got to that point yet in college sports, but we'll get there.
Why is that? Why are they so secretive to that, do you think?
I don't know. Maybe the players don't want it out there, or
I know they don't want it out there,
schools don't want it out there, or the the groups that are giving them the money don't want other people knowing they're, giving them the money. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But
I just don't know how long you can go, though.
It's such a
making
new
that kind of
development
money.
that we haven't got to that point yet. I mean, it's still that was our first holdout. We're just getting going in this stuff.
Oh, and that did not go well for him.
Nico? No, I mean, he left a team that was in the playoff last year to go to one of the 5 worst teams in the Big Ten, which doesn't come close to filling its stadium. And, is probably the 17th most popular thing to do in Los Angeles. Not very important.
Financially, a big, big loss, because not only did everything I read said he has taken a 7-figure hit in that. Now you add to the fact that there's no state income tax in Tennessee, and in California is what, 115%?
One of the highest in the country for sure. So, yeah, I mean, he overplayed his hand. There's no doubt about that. And at this point, now it's up to him. If he's going to actually make real money in the NFL, he's got to prove that he can be a player. And it's going to be harder to do at UCLA than it was at Tennessee.
Caleb asking, does Rick know where Travis Perry is going?
I don't know where Travis Perry is going. That broke last night. He wants to go somewhere where he's going to play. I said, half kidding and half serious, that I think he should go to
Indiana.
Because Matt Painter recruited the heck out of him when he was in high school, and Lawyer and Smith will be seniors, and he could come in and get a decent amount of minutes as the third guard, and Painter lets his guards run the show and shoot, and it'd be payback for Kentucky taking Kyle Macy back in 1976 or whenever it was.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. That's how much of a blow is that to Kentucky?
I don't think it's a very big blow. It's a blow to the fan base because he's an in-state kid who is the all-time leading scorer in the state. And,
that never happened. They hardly ever recruit
right.
in-state kids.
Very rarely. Richie Farmer, Josh Carrier, Reed Shepard, Rex Chapman. There have been a few of them, but
he's from Eddyville, man. He is from.
That's where the state prison is, right?
But aren't the colors of the town blue and white?
Oh, he's a big Cat fan. They've overbooked the flight, though. They got so many players that I think he looked at the roster and said, I'm going to play less this year than I did last year. And if you watch Kentucky this year, he got very few minutes in the NCAA tournament. And Owa's coming back. They've got a kid who was a freshman last year named Caleb Chandler, who's actually 2 years older because he was going to go to BYU and did his mission time. And he started getting more minutes than Perry at the end of the year. And then they've got 2 or 3 good guards out of the portal. So I'm sure he said, hey, I'm going to be the 12th or 13th man. I want to go somewhere I can play. So if he really wants to play immediately, I mean, go to somewhere like Western Kentucky. I'm sure he could play from day one. I remember Matt Painter recruited him really hard. Indiana recruited him a little bit, but I don't think it was Woodson. I think it was Walsh or Dane Fife or somebody. But IU's got plenty of guards, too. It doesn't make any sense for him to come to Indiana. They need big men.
Yeah, they definitely need bigs. After landing yet another guard at the Drexel transfer, Jason Drake, they're guard rich now where they had been guard poor. They've got to focus on getting some big men in now. And not that there aren't guys out there, but the farther this goes, it makes you wonder, okay, I guess the fortunate thing is you're looking at a specific avenue with the bigs, and you only need a couple. But the further this thing goes, does it get a little more dicey for Darren DeVries?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, the portal officially closed last night. The names are just starting to trickle out today and tomorrow, and we'll probably know all the names by Friday. I mean, Louisville lost a guy this morning, James Scott. Their starting center, who started pretty much every game all year and was a good player, has decided he's going in the portal. A lot of speculation is he'll end up at NC State. I'm sure there's guys in the portal. They need, from what I know of the way DeVries likes to play, I mean, he doesn't need a post-up center. He wants a guy who can go inside some and rebound and defend and hold his position on the block and give him a little bit of a occasional offensive burst inside. So they need a couple of 6'8", 6'9" guy who's got some substance to him, or a taller guy with long arms who can give them a presence. And the challenge will be the Big Ten hasn't come all the way around to the way the ACC and SEC and some of the schools play basketball with more perimeter 3-point oriented games. It's still more of a power league. So they're going to need.
What's that going to be like for Indiana next year? Because they're not going to play like that.
No, they're not. And that'll be good to watch to see how that works out and how the rest of the Big Ten adjust to it, because Purdue and Michigan State are going to play that way.
It is going to be fun to see, because I've talked about, for Indiana fans, they're going to see something they haven't seen in nearly a decade. A team that can shoot, a team that will shoot, a team that focuses on shooting, and they're going to see, I hate to use the word positionless basketball, but something that is closer to positionless basketball, as you just mentioned, and I agree with, whoever the quote-unquote 5 or center ends up being, it's going to be a guy that's not anchored to the basket. He's not going to be making all of his shots from 2 feet away, and there's going to be a lot more ball movement, a lot more spacing. It's going to be a faster and more up-tempo offense. It's going to be interesting to see how they compare to some of these teams, though, like you're talking about with Purdue and Michigan State, that do play still more traditional style. What is that going to be like? How is Indiana going to match up with them? Is it going to be keeping up with the Joneses, or forcing them to or imposing your will on them?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the big men they get,
I don't ask many of those.
The most important factor will be, can they run the floor? Because I think DeVries has said on several occasions that their initial goal is to score within the first 12 seconds of the play. In other words, get down and score before the defense gets set. You'd want to. There aren't any Cody Zellers out there, but a guy who can run the floor like that, who's interested when he sees you're in a period of transition to get down the floor. Then the other thing would be, you want a big man who can actually handle the ball and stand outside the lane and be able to make some good passes. And that really wasn't the strength of this IU team last year. I wouldn't say that either Renew or Bala was a particularly good passer.
No. What, now that we've had NIL or the transfer portal for a couple of years, is it harder to get big men? Is it harder to get, I would think that there are more guards and those types of players available than the bigs. That would lead me to think it's harder to get that guy you need, the one, out of the portal. But it's not impossible, and there's plenty in there. Like you said, we don't even know who all is going to be in the portal yet till probably the end of the week.
Yeah, I mean, supply and demand, there's just always more guards and forwards than there are centers. There aren't as many tall guys in the population at large, and there aren't as many tall, skilled guys, and the guys who are good are in high demand. And they're going to be, a lot of them are going to have a home at a Power 4 school, Power 5 school, and be paid rather well. So got to wait and see. I haven't seen the list of who's left still out there, and I haven't seen today what other guys win. I'm sure a few more guys win in today, and I would suspect that DeVries and Kenny Johnson and Drew Adams and the rest of the staff know 3 or 4 guys that they have a shot at and are already working to try and get them on campus.
Yeah, now the Indiana's focus has to turn to there, but they also have several spots, like 7 open spots yet, if you're going to the 15-man roster, which I think that they will, not per se to fill it up with players that you expect production from, but you have to have the bodies for practice. You still need those 15 players, I would imagine.
Right, because you can't have walk-ons, right? No more walk-ons.
Right. So you've got to have those bodies for practice at the very least, not so much as for production, but also that's a place where you could put potential freshmen that you want to get in. But that's that becomes a slippery slope now, because you're bringing these guys in, but how they're going? You have no clue that whether or not they're going to be there next year, whether they will stay. You're going to have to re-recruit them. You know that. But right now, that's not Darren DeVries' focus, but he does probably have to bring in another freshman or 2 on this roster, I would think.
Yeah, that would make sense to me, to bring in 1 or 2 more if they're out there. And you got to weigh it against bringing guys in, and bringing guys in who are a good fit for your program, because the first year is pretty critical to establish your culture and not have locker room issues or discontented players or whatever, and establish the way you're going to run the show. And you need to make sure that the guys that you are recruiting fit your style. And it's a good marriage, because you don't want to have to deal with a bunch of turmoil during your first season as a coach. So we'll see. It's how many? I don't even know how many guys have they got lined up. 7? Is that what it is
right now? Yeah,
is that
7
counting Goody? And so far, Goody's not been cleared yet, and there's some feeling that he won't be.
Yeah, just because he played his games, the games that he did play were at the end of the season,
right?
So, and we just saw the NCAA. It was breaking news for me. The NCAA won a lawsuit. I'm like,
wow.
Wait. Stop the clock. The NCAA. Well, it was the guys, the student athletes from Duke and North Carolina that were suing because they felt their 5-year eligibility rule. It's not fair. Some of the reasons they gave, it just made me laugh. One of them was not enough playing minutes.
Yeah, I missed that one, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, because I said, "Why don't you just add?" It was hard. It was all kinds of ridiculous reasons that the suit should go through, and they had everything there, but the difficulty adjusting to the oxygen variance in their new home or something ridiculously dumb. I mean, they have come up. Though I said at the time, I go, all 4 of those guys should be countersued for frivolous lawsuits. That was just baloney. It's becoming maddening. Everybody wanting their piece of the pie. And if you didn't get your playing minutes, you probably weren't good enough to play. So that's life. Yeah. When is the people in college going to be faced with the reality of life, real life? Because living in that NCAA life of bubble is not real.
I mean, I'm with you. It's the reality of not being willing to understand and accept the word no. That no, this is a rule. You can't do that. No, we're not going to allow that. No, you're not going to play this year. I mean, nobody wants to accept the word no. And that's what's helped create the system that we have right now. And I mean, the viewership was up during the tournament. I just wonder whether among some fans at some point they're going to be turned off by the way this is all unfolding. And it's not a good topic for me to talk about, because I mean, growing up under the other system and watching what players used to do in terms of waiting their turn and developing and getting a little bit better every year. And you could watch a guy and say, man, you watch him over his career and say, Greg Graham, man, when he came in, he was this, and then he was great. And then, I could mention it a lot at Kentucky, where, Tony Delk was a good player. Anthony Epps, there's one. He barely played his first couple of years, and then he became the starting point guard on the national championship team. Russ Smith at Louisville almost left 1 or 2 times his first year. And by his senior year, I mean, he has bags packed in the hallway, and somebody talked him out of it. If the transfer portal would have been here, he would have been gone. He leaves as one of 5 players ever to have his jersey number retired at the University of Louisville. We're not going to have those kind of guys anymore, and it's not important to people. It's important is that the players have the freedom to go wherever they want and do whatever they want. And I think it's gone too far in one direction. I do.
Oh, there's no question about that. And then now it's, how do you get it back? How do you reel that back? It's like trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's one of those things that people are still looking for the answer and the way to do that, without no question. And it has to reach. It's just like the stock market correction. There has to be a correction at some point, one would think, because people don't like, the only people that love this are the players who are making that big money.
Their agents.
And the agents, they are really starting, I think, to become a problem. I'm wondering how many of the agents are behind things like that ridiculous lawsuit of the Duke and North Carolina players, and the Nico Iamaleava? Was that his dad, his agent? Who caused that? Somebody caused that. And if it wasn't his dad and it was an agent, I'd sue that SOB for $1 million for what he's going to lose, because he is going to lose $1 million.
Well, again, the difference between this and real professional sports is that in the NFL or the MLB or the NBA, agents have to be certified. And that's not the case in college sports. There's no certification process. A lot of the guys do go to agencies that have certified agents, but a number of them don't. And I've heard these stories from multiple coaches that a player will come in and agree to a deal, and then, a few months later, whether he hears somebody else got a deal or he's performed well and thinks he deserves more, that the agent will call the coach and say, well, we need more. It's like, we just agreed to this number a few months ago. It's like, now we need more. And I don't think you can run any operation that way. And I believe I saw a story yesterday that it's Arkansas that had a player who's leaving, that they're trying to encourage the collective to sue the player to he had a buyout in his clause. If they want to put buyouts in the clauses of players, where if they agree to a deal, then they leave, that they owe the collective a buyout.
Well, I don't disagree with that. If you come to an agreement, that's an agreement. Yeah. You have agreed. And I think, didn't Nico Iamaleava come to an agreement? I mean, that's what was so aggravating to Josh Heupel in Tennessee. There was an agreement in place. And my question is, was this a signed agreement? If it's a signed agreement, boom, you got a legal document.
Yeah, and what made it even worse at Tennessee is they went the extra mile to get him the money that he got and get him eligible. They had the University of Tennessee legal department affiliated with the athletic department, who took on some issues down there early in his career to get him cleared to play. And I don't, the whole thing is just every day. It's like last night it was Travis Perry, and then there was another one that went in the portal. And this morning it's James Scott. It's unrelenting.
Yeah, it never stops. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this beautiful Wednesday. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com with us. Could not be happier. Rick, let's see, spring football over. In the break, we were talking about IU football. They look good in their game. Fernando Mendoza, there's no drop-off at quarterback for Indiana. As a matter of fact, I think that it might be an uptick, not because he is per se better than Curtis Rourke, but he definitely has more mobility. And not that I'm suggesting he needs to be running with the ball, but to escape the pocket, to keep a play alive, to make a play. He has that ability. He has deep throw ability. He can hit the deep ball. Indiana's offensive line has been upgraded. You've added Pat Coogan, the guy we were talking about earlier. You've added a tight end. They've added a few. They get was it Drew Evans back. So I think that they've upgraded things on the offensive line. The running backs room is very solid. And watching that game, man, Kalen Black, he had a 47-yard burst up the middle, like he was shot out of a cannon. Boom, and he was gone. Roman Hemby and Eby from UAB showed they're very good out of the backfield catching the ball. Didn't get to see a lot of the deep routes. Omar Cooper was not available, I believe, or was it? No, Omar Cooper was. Touchdowns. Elijah Surratt wasn't available. But yeah, I think that the offense is going to pick up right where they left off and maybe a little ahead. Defensively, they picked up some guys in the last few days out of the portal, filling in the pieces that they need for Brian Haynes. The defensive line was a great benefit for Indiana's defense last year, one of the top 10 in the country. CJ West off to the NFL, most likely. His former teammate at Kent State, one of the guys that has come in, and then they land a former linebacker of Maryland yesterday, who's probably going to play on the line. So they're looking pretty good, I think. And I was talking about earlier, Indiana is I can see them being 10-2, but that means they have to win a game at either Iowa, Oregon, or Penn State. And to make the college football playoffs, though, they have to win one of those 3 games. You cannot go 0 for 3 there and go back to the college. I mean, 9-3 would be a great season, no question. It will not get you in the college football playoffs, even from the Big Ten, if you do not beat one of those 3 teams, unless your name is Alabama. Then you might still get in. But we'll have to see. Are they going to have the guaranteed 4 spots? I mean, that won't change for this upcoming one. The only thing that might change is the seeding, which I cannot believe we're even saying might. That has to be a given that changes because of the ridiculousness that we all saw that was. And I think that the committee saw that and everything. So I think that happens. It's just going to come down to the SEC and the Big Ten, stretching, flexing, and getting their 4 automatic qualifiers, which I kind of hate that because you're giving a lot of it away, guaranteeing to people who may not deserve it. As shocking as it was last year to see the SEC have teams that didn't deserve to be in. Alabama, to me, did not deserve to be in over some of the teams and rightfully did not get in, although it caused all this consternation from SEC, from Mr. Gregg, who, the SEC should probably have all 14 spots in his eyes, if truth were told. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing I've seen from IU is when they see needs, and they saw 2 needs on defense after the spring game, they targeted several guys, and they closed the deal quickly. And that's the sign of a coaching staff that I think is on it and efficient and has something to sell. That's 2 guys who started at Maryland last year who decided they'd rather play at Indiana. And they're not like Indiana kids. They're more East Coast kids. So that's a fairly impressive thing to do. It used to be that Indiana players would go elsewhere and play somewhere in the Big Ten. Now they're coming from another Big Ten team, which several years ago was ahead of IU in the Big Ten East pecking order, and now IU's taken their players away. I agree with you on Mendoza. I'm not saying he'll be better than Rourke, but he's got some attributes that Rourke doesn't have, and one is athleticism. And I watched several of Cal's games last year because they're in the ACC, the same league as Louisville, and he could run, and can turn nothing into something. Guys who can run can turn nothing into something. And I think one thing that we overlook is that Curtis Rourke played injured last year. I mean, didn't it come out after the year he had some kind of a knee issue?
Torn ACL.
Yeah. And he had a thumb issue. And so after the great start, and then he missed the game that Taven Jackson played, he was compromised the last half of the year. So, they have a chance they do have a chance to have an upgraded play at quarterback. The only concern would be is there isn't really an experienced backup. I know they got a guy from Old Dominion or something. He was the backup.
I'm telling you right now, I think that they are better set at backup than they were last year.
With Taven?
Yes, and it's not a knock on Taven per se because he was very athletic. Fernando's brother, the Mendoza brothers he stepped in and looked confident. And then you had the other kid that was from Old Dominion, like you said. I'm drawing a blank on his names right now, but he stood in the pocket and threw the ball. And I'm like, man, these guys are pretty solid. So I think they're better positioned in that regard than they were a year ago. Not that you want to go with a backup. Of course, if you don't have to, I mean, that doesn't usually work out for anybody. There's a reason why you have the number 1. He's number 1. But I think they're better positioned than they were a year ago. And Fernando and Alberto, they're accustomed to that. I mean, that's what they did in high school. Fernando was the guy for a couple of years at his high school. Alberto followed him behind him for a couple of years. I can see that happening at Indiana.
Could be. And I wouldn't write off Tyler Cherry. I'm sure he's a good prospect too. He's got to sit out this year with the knee injury. So quarterback doesn't seem to be the concern it was several years ago.
Isn't that funny?
And they've really upgraded the running back room. I mean, from what I've heard, I know that Hemby's a solid player. I saw him play at Maryland. The kid at UAB was very productive at UAB, and Kalen Black seems to be healthy. So, and Coogan, I agree with you. I think they've solidified the offense. I mean, you can see who the players are. They did take a hit. The kid from Michigan, who was going to be the slot receiver, tore up his knee and won't be able to play. And I think he had the ability to be a big time contributor, not only as a receiver but in the return game. I think he was a punt return guy. But you've got to believe in Cignetti's the same guy now that he was last year. He hadn't changed. Success hasn't gone to his head. He still talks the same way, and if anything, I think their success has enabled them to have the confidence and the ability to recruit better players.
Yeah, now he knows he has to back it up this year, so there's no reason for him to go off on some tangent. But you're exactly right. They have filled in the little places they need to make better.
And quickly.
Defense had some, and precisely, more importantly, to get better. And I think that is exactly what this entire team has done. They've gotten better.
And the word's gotten out. I mean, obviously the kid, that followed CJ West, I'm sure he talked to CJ West, and CJ West said, you can trust this coaching staff. They're going to do what they say. They made me better. I'm going to get to the NFL because of the way I was coached there. And I'm sure the kid at Maryland talked to Hemby and said, what's it like there? Do you like it there? And he said, yeah, I do like it here. And you should come here too. So word of mouth is important in recruiting. Didn't they just get a commitment yesterday, the day before, from a high school player in the state of Ohio?
Linebacker. A good linebacker. And you mentioned the guy that was transferred over from Kent State. CJ West was at the spring game. I think that they both were there together. So
okay,
definitely. And they picked up a nice pickup at linebacker to add into what they're doing. Solid pickup. So moving right along. And so looking forward to, we won't talk to Signetti. We'll see Signetti in about a month, thereabouts, month from, at Huber's, which is on the 28th, Wednesday, the 28th. Well, we'll get to talk to, actually for the first time since his announcement, really, Darren DeVries. And by then, with another month, I would imagine Indiana's roster will have pretty much taken shape. If it has,
and the coaching staff, don't they have 2 spots still in the coaching staff to fill?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, they have one assistant yet still to announce. We don't know exactly what Drew Adams' position is per se, right? I haven't seen that in for certainty of what it is going to be, whether it's going to be a GM type, a recruiting type, who knows? But they're filling all these. There's a lot of stuff to fill in when you have to build your team first, and you've got all this other stuff that you've got to build, but you want to focus on this, but building that helps you build this. It's a lot of moving parts.
I got a question for you. Will the basketball coach still be the headliner at Huber's, or is it switched now after what happened last year where the football coach is now the headliner?
That is a great question. And it is a great question. And it's a legit question because it's not just what Signetti did. It's how he did it. It's his personality, because this whole thing, that Huber's, the whole deal, that was a Bob Knight thing. That started just the local Alumni Association getting Bob Knight down to talk.
It was a small group of guys that they had a room at Huber's, and it was sort of almost like invitation only, no media involved.
Yeah. Oh no,
Billy Reed got to go occasionally.
I had it set up to go when I was an intern at WLKY there in Louisville through Kit Klingelhofer. We had it all approved by night, and we still got turned away at the door because the local jackleg had no idea what was going on and just refused to listen and let us in. Although Knight made good on it later on in Bloomington, gave us an exclusive interview, which was great. But yeah, that's how it started. But now Curt Cignetti, his personality is a lot closer to Bob Knight's than Darren DeVries is. And that's not a knock on anybody. It's just he has a personality. This guy he talks and people like to listen to what he's got to say.
That's another thing of, I've never heard DeVries speak, but I think it'd be harder for him to follow Cignetti than it would be for Cignetti to follow DeVries, because Cignetti knows how to get people talking and fired up. One of the most painful things in the history of Huber's was going in there and listening to Archie Miller talk.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, yeah, he couldn't speak like that in front of a crowd. I mean,
proud thing that I am of our first stop at the University of Dayton was we didn't stop.
Man of many words, Lil Rhodey.
So I'll be curious. I hope Terry Morin comes too, because she's got a lot to talk about.
It's going to be, but that is a great question. And the sheer fact that that's even a possibility shows the massive change in IU athletics, in Indiana football, in just everything, because that would have never even been a possibility in my mind. I wouldn't even thought to have asked that question. Seriously. And
throw it out to the viewers. What do you think? Who should be
the moment you said it, though? I'm like, oh my God, that's a great question, because I think that the answer might be Cignetti. He's also
he's a national coach of the year that took IU to the football playoffs.
Yeah,
hard to get much better than that.
And his personality. I mean,
doesn't need to be the warm-up act for anybody.
Well, who speaks first? DeVries or Cignetti?
No, that's what I'm asking you. Who speaks
first?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. No, I just thought you meant who was even going to be the bigger draw.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Cignetti's the bigger. I mean, DeVries is a big draw because he's a first-year coach, and there's a lot of pent-up demand for IU basketball success.
I think that they would have to alternate this on a yearly basis.
Yeah, you do. That's the best answer. But, it's always automatically been the basketball coaches has been last. Tom Allen always went first when I saw him there. Kevin Wilson went first. The basketball coach went last. The basketball coach was the center of attention. And I think that changed last year where Curt Cignetti is the center of attention. And I could see him being the last guy in front of the microphone because he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to do it.
And that's a hard flip to accomplish, because that crowd, that's a basketball crowd, man. Southern Indiana is just so basketball, and it's awesome to see the acceptance of change, the acceptance of what has happened, and I think Indiana football is going to have a better season than Indiana basketball. That does not mean I think Indiana basketball is not going to have a good season. I'm expecting. I've said this once, and it's so funny to say this. 8-4 would be a grave disappointment for Indiana football. How no one is ever.
I'm not at that point yet.
To me, because that means they lost a home game, first of all, which there is no home game that they should lose. And
that very first home game against Illinois in the Big Ten is not going to be easy. Illinois is good.
I said that very thing earlier today. That is a tough one to start with. Last year, Indiana's schedule was just picture perfect with those 3 cupcake non-cons. And then even in the Big Ten schedule, it started out very low. Was UCLA their first game?
Yes.
I think so. You start out and it just slowly, the difficulty just slowly rose. And it never got to be until the end of the year. That's not going to be the case this year. As a matter of fact, their 3 toughest games, their toughest 3-game stretch comes in the first 6 games. Illinois is one of those because you open Big Ten play against a team that is also going to be fighting for a college football playoff spot. They were last year, and if it hadn't been for Indiana, you would have heard a lot more about Illinois, but Indiana stole their thunder. But after the Illinois game, they have to go to Iowa and then to Oregon. That's a tough stretch.
Very tough. And Illinois got a lot of starters back. I think 17 or 18 starters back. And Bielema is a good coach. That'll be a hard game. That's the most critical game on the schedule. Because then after that, you're right. You have back-to-back road games against Iowa City, where there was a nightmare the last time they went there, and then to Oregon, which I'm sure will be rated in the top 10 and have a million really fast dudes and rarely loses in Eugene. So, you don't want to go 0-3 in that stretch.
No, you can't. But that Iowa game, that's a game that jumps out to me because I think it's their best opportunity to win a valuable road game. Mm-hmm. But it's still going to be tough. I don't know how good Iowa's going to be. I mean, I know they're going to be good. They've got a quarterback that came in from South Carolina that can throw the ball. We haven't seen an Iowa team that throws the ball much. So there's changes there.
I'm still not convinced Kirk Ferentz is going to be comfortable letting his offensive coordinator throw the ball a bunch. He's the longest tenured coach in the country now, isn't he? He's defense in the running the game is still his bread and butter. He's not going to change much for that. So that'll be a game. I usually plays close games. They usually play close, low scoring games. So it should be more competitive than the last time Indiana went in there. I'll say that.
Cannot wait. Derby, a week away, a week from this Saturday, but lots going on out at the track down there in Louisville. Have you been out there yet, I'm sure?
Yeah, I was out last weekend. 7 or 8 Derby horses worked on Saturday morning. The favorite is going to be a horse probably named Journalism. There's also a horse named Publisher, so it's a big year for print media finally. Bob Baffert makes his return for the first time since 2021. He's got 2 horses. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people thought he would have 4. He's got 2. His top runner is Rodriguez. Even Dwayne Lucas, who's now 85 or 86, is going to have a horse in the Derby. So we'll have plenty to discuss all week next week.
Looking forward, man. What else is up next for you?
NFL draft. Louisville's quarterback might get taken in the first round, Tyler Shuck. If not, early second round. And we'll wait and see what goes on with Curtis Rourke and CJ West from the Hoosiers.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully he does get picked up for him. That'll be a boost to Indiana. They've got to start producing some NFL. That's the next thing Indiana football has to do. They've got to start producing NFL talent to start bringing in higher talent. That's what helps bring in better talent.
You're right. Kids want to know, can you get them to the league?
Rick Bozich, the captain from my WDRB.com. Don't work too hard, brother. Enjoy the track. I look forward to seeing you down there, but we'll see you again before the Derby comes around anyway.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Betcha. Thank you, brother. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you are giving him a follow, keeping up with all that he has to offer, which is a lot in the sports world. And we appreciate each and every one of you, as always, for following along with us. Yeah, Fred likes it when I go solo. Not so much. It's a lot to do. John says the Baffert horses are usually one take over the line. One toke over the line. Sweet Jesus. First round tomorrow, 8 p.m. Not sure what that's regarding to. We'll have to see though. Hey, appreciate you guys. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Plenty more to talk about. We'll get Kyler Staley from Hoosier.com to update you on what's going on in the transfer world of Indiana basketball and much, much more. Bob Kravitz and much more on top of that. Coach Griffith, we'll talk some football. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves a great day. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you as always for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, Jamie Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there, sign up today.